Hello, everybody. Just clear something up. I've got this, tied my face. Even though in some previous uploads you can see my face, but I've changed a lot since then. And also, the quality of the Quest microphone is a lot better than my normal microphone. So, basically what I wanted to do is start a new series revolving around this game called Hyperdash. So Hyperdash is a 5v5 super fast-paced VR shooter which I've been playing for quite a while, I'd say since lockdown. So what's that, like 3-4ish years, that's mad. But I've been playing it competitively for quite some time as well. That's how I met Shout and Joseph, the people you see in my Tactical Assault VR videos. That's how I've met them. And trying to be as humble as possible, I'm quite good at the game. I don't know if I'll throw up some stats or some clips. You'll probably have like kind of just some gameplay playing, and then I'll be in like the top corner just to keep your attention, because I doubt you just want to see me sat in my chair. It is going to be relatively unscripted as well, because I kind of suck at writing scripts, which I know is hard to believe given I've written masterpieces such as these videos here. But also, I just feel like I can speak a bit more freely, a bit more casually if I'm not reading off a screen. And I'll probably stutter just a little bit less, just a little bit less. So, what are the series of videos that I'm going to make? So this first episode, don't worry, this first episode I will actually cover some tips and tricks, but also I wanted to explain kind of a timeline, if you will, of tutorials that I am going to make. So within the Hyperdash competitive scene, I'd say there are kind of two brackets, two sides to what makes a good player. And I'll also throw up some fancy editing and lists on the screen just to, again, make it a bit more of a better production, a better watch, an easier watch. So I'd say two main components are mechanical skills and what I would call individual skills. The individual skills can kind of be changed to whatever, but for sake of clarity, that's what I'm going to call it. So your mechanical skills, I just realised I haven't given context to Hyperdash. Hyperdash is free to play, by the way, so if you've got any type of VR, just go get Hyperdash. It's free to play, super fun, super rewarding to get good at, super fast paced, probably the most addicting game I've ever played. I've got over 800 hours in it. But within Hyperdash, again, there'll be a little gameplay clip so you can see. As you can see, dashing and shooting are kind of the main components within the game. So, sorry, sorry if this feels so scrambled. So, with your mechanical skills, you've got things like sprinting, shooting, dashing, fire rate. You know, all the things that allow you to kind of play the game, if that makes sense. Like face value, those are your mechanics, that's how you play the game. And you'll see just pub players will usually get quite good at those things. Kind of to jump ahead a little bit, in this video I will be covering fire rate, because that is part of your mechanics. But I think it's not the least important, but you don't need to put as much work into it as, say, dashing or accuracy or bullet grouping. So in this episode I will cover fire rate, because in my opinion that's not, like I said, not least important, but you don't need to put as much work into it because it's not a main driving factor of what makes a good mechanical player. And then for your individual skills, this is more your kind of team play and other kind of decision making. So with your individual skills, I'd say those are mainly decision making. So these are things like positioning, map awareness, team awareness, objectives. Basically, anything you need to put thought into is your individual skill, and then anything that kind of anyone can train up to do are your mechanics. So that's kind of the divide between the two. And then obviously the best players in Hyperdash and Dash League is the competitive scene of Hyperdash, have a good mix of both. You can be the best mechanical player in the world, but if you're not good with your individual skills, like your positioning and your objective focus, you're going to lose games. And vice versa. You can be the best individually skilled player, like your positioning is good, your decision making is good, your micro making decisions, objective focus can be really, really good. But if your mechanics aren't good, then you're not going to kill anyone. So you kind of need to find that sweet spot of good mechanics and good individual skills. And along these kind of Hyperdash tutorials, I will be trying to cover every single topic that I can, because this is a game that I'm passionate about, it's a game that my friends are passionate about, and I think it just kind of needs more awareness. Right, so that's all the waffle out of the way. Let's get on to firerate. So in this video, and in most of my tutorials, I'll be splitting up the video into two sections. Kind of, the first section will be stuff you can do immediately. So this won't be applicable with every tutorial, but the first section will be stuff you can do right off the bat, immediately, things you can focus on right then and there, to kind of almost see a immediate increase in skill, if that makes sense. And then the second part of the video is going to be things like drills, things to focus on, basically the more complex side of it. And my hope is to kind of cater with these videos, if I split it into sections like that, I want to cater towards the casual players who are kind of playing for fun but don't mind getting better, and someone who is perhaps looking into wanting to be the best that they can. So hopefully when I split them into those two categories, I can cover both sides, but then also in each section, not so much the stuff you can do immediately, but the stuff that you can train on, and drills and whatnot. I'll be covering as many angles as I can. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get started. And in case anyone's interested, the rig that I'm currently running, because I know depending on what platform you play it can be different, I am using the Quest 3, as you can see, and the Quest Pro controllers. These things are wicked. If you want to see a video on them, then I can make a video on them, because I've had these since the Quest 2 as well. My Quest 2 is just sitting there. But yeah, this is the rig I use, and I've just got standard controller grips, and I play all standalone. I can play PC VR, but personally for me, I can't play with a cable, and I can't use virtual desktop because the latency is too big, but that's a topic for another day. Okay, so in Hyperdash, you can see in the videos that I'm putting on screen now, you have two guns, right? So kind of, it's not like other games where you hold up and you shoot and the other controller does something completely different. You basically have the way I compare it is in games like Onward and Tactical Assault VR, you're playing almost with one controller, right? Because you need both in harmony to kind of play the game. Whereas in Hyperdash, these two controllers are completely separate, basically. There's no aiming down sights. Everything you can do on your right hand is mirrored to your left hand. So the default bindings in Hyperdash, I believe, are A and X bottom buttons to dash. Next one up is to sprint. Grip is to reload either weapon, because you have infinite ammo and kind of auto reloading whenever you hit the grip. And triggers are, of course, to shoot, left stick to move, right stick to look around. The first thing you can do immediately to improve your fire rate and to improve your consistency, and I'd go as far as to say even improve your accuracy, is to double bind. Now, what do I mean by double binding? Well, your left trigger shoots your left gun, your right trigger shoots your right gun. So what most people will do is bind both shooting buttons to their left trigger or their right trigger. But my bindings, personally, I have both shooting buttons on my A button. My left and right triggers are my dashes. My left grip reloads both guns, and my right grip sprints. That's so fucking weird. That's turned into a Quest 2 controller. But anyway, so I thought I'd just quickly hop on to show you my bindings very quickly. I know I explained them earlier, but obviously movement and turning is exactly the same. Shoot left and right, A button, reloads for both is left grip, dash left and right trigger respectively, sprint is right grip, crouch is left thumbstick press. Another thing, now that's crossed my mind, is if you use button shooting, you can't really use your thumbstick to turn, obviously, because as you're holding down the A button, you can't really reach it like that. If you're using like double rockets or anything else that doesn't require a charge, then you are kind of alright. But if you do use button shooting, so I have to do all of my turning IRL, so just be aware of that when using your button shooting. But I personally think IRL turning is so much more better and accurate. You will fatigue a little bit quicker, but for me personally, IRL turning is the way to go. I rarely use my thumbstick. One more thing before we go back to my covered up face is a thing that helped me adjust from trigger to A button is just with menu navigation. Instead of clicking the trigger to navigate the menu, just click the A button. And that really, quick stats, that really like helped me with making that transition, just clicking the A button instead of the trigger, because for me it's just little things like that which help bridge the gap when making those adjustments. So yeah, and that's another thing you can do immediately to improve your fire rate: button shooting. I will try and throw up an old clip. Actually, I've got an old YouTube video of me playing Hyperdash. It's more of a montage, but in that one I'm using default bindings, and you can see I'm shit. And it does take a while to get used to. I think by the time I switched to A button shooting, I had a couple hundred hours, but I wasn't too deep into it. There is a massive adjustment to it, but if you stick with it, you'll notice improvements right away. I'll also say another thing: if you decide to rebind your buttons, give it at least a week. And if you still can't cope with it, if you still don't see any improvements, then revert back, go back to the drawing board. But you've got to give it a week. You've got to let your body readjust, let your muscle memory kind of reshape, because when I switched to A shooting, it did take some adjustment. Okay, so that's pretty much it for things you can do immediately to sort out your fire rate. I would recommend dual binding. Okay, so that covers things you can do kind of immediately with your fire rate. What are some drills you can do? Now, I will be the first to admit, I don't really do fire rate drills. I think, for me personally, the best way to learn isn't to sit in a training lobby, it's to actually go onto the multiplayer and test it out. But there have been a few times where I warm up, because warming up your thumb to get crazy fast fire rate is a little bit trickier than just a trigger finger. But I'll cover both bases. So, for button shooting, so the method I use, it is as simple as just mashing your button. There is nothing to it. There's no real, especially with the pro controllers, you can see how small those buttons are. You can see how kind of shallow they are there. So it is literally just as simple as just sitting there and mashing the A button like that, because there's not much to it. That is how you shoot quickly with the A button. Now, for trigger shooters, again, it's more or less the thing where you can mash the trigger, but I'm sure, and anyone with a games controller will tell you, there is a sweet spot. there is a point where you pull the trigger and then it registers, right? It doesn't register right at the bottom. It kind of registers about there for me, right? And it's all about kind of having that sweet spot rather than doing that. And that can work. Good friend of mine, Deaffy, he has an insanely high fire rate and he literally just mashes the trigger and it works really well for him. But for some other people, like myself, who can't shoot very quickly with the trigger, it's kind of about just hitting that spot like that, rather than going all the way up and down like that. Just kind of hitting that spot. And again, the best way to do that is to grab a chair, sit down in a training lobby, and just find that spot. Just warm up your hands and just find that spot. That's another thing as well. I find at least, my fire rate improves during the day as I play more, but that's only because I'm getting warm. You know, the ligaments and the tendons in my hands and wrists are getting warm, so I'm able to shoot faster. But that is pretty much it. Sorry about the a bit of waffle there. Basically what I'll do is I'll ask a couple others what their opinion on fire rate is and any quick tips and tricks that they have and whatnot.
Hi.
Can you make some noise just so I make sure OBS is working?
Meow.
Yep, that's working. So,
Red.
as the best US player in the world, what tips and tricks would you give for fire rate, just off the top of your head?
So mechanically, I'm not as adept in terms of coaching. However, the biggest piece of advice I can give is that your finger is a muscle that can be trained. It's the same for fire rate.
Yeah.
So if you want good fire rate, you have to train the muscle to be comfortable clicking that fast. So what I like, there's a couple things you can do for that. There's games you can play. A lot of people play Osu or Geometry Dash.
Yeah.
There's like, when I was in school, like 4 years ago when I first got into League, I would tap my finger on my desk repeatedly.
Yeah.
When I'm not really doing anything, or from like in class, I'll just tap my finger on my desk. There's a lot you can do, and there's also CPS trackers on the Oculus browser you can use to test your CPS and kind of gauge your progress.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is just getting that finger comfortable in constant flexion, clicking the trigger as fast as possible while maintaining stability.
Joseph.
Yeah.
If you want, do you have any tips and tricks for fire rate?
Well, fire rate's definitely my biggest opportunity. Like, I don't have great fire rate, but I heard a bit of it as you were coming in, talking about dual binding. A lot of people know that using dual binding, it does improve your fire rate. Even if it's by minuscule amount, it does improve your fire rate in the long run. And it helps with making sure your shots are lined up together, rather than staggering
that's
them.
The main thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I will touch
So
more on
you're-
that on a later episode of the tutorial. From the CPS
Fire
king
rate.
himself, what would you give? What nuggets of information do you want to give for fire rate?
It comes
Okay, nuggets of
around. It comes around where you place your finger on the trigger, and what's most comfortable for you. Now, when you want to fire fast, you risk the like ripping down onto the controller really hard and causing your aim to shake a lot. But if you line up and try to not death grip your controller, it makes your fire rate a little slower, but also doesn't make it shaky
Yeah.
when you aim.
And I guess
So-
with that more relaxed kind of hand grip,
Yeah.
you can kind of almost find that sweet spot a bit easier with trigger shooting.
Yeah. It's hard to explain it because I could just do it, but I can kind of lock my finger instead of my entire hand.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why I have a fast fire rate. But if you can kind of learn how to lock your finger in without like death gripping your hand, you've reached the pinnacle of fire rate.
Yeah, well said.
And also just you want to like not rest it on the trigger, but you want to get rid of the action of like pressing down on it as much as possible.
Yeah, it's just find that sweet spot, isn't it? Like kind of in the middle or 3/4 or what have you.
Yeah.
Wicked. Well, that was so much wisdom was parted. I was expecting just to get an answer from Shout, but then Joseph and deaffy joined. That was unexpected, but very appreciated.
I really, really do hope you enjoyed this video. I hope the mic quality is alright with my muffled voice with this balaclava. But yeah, hope you got something out of this. Please like and subscribe. I will be making more of these. I will try to be making content regularly. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you very much for watching. See ya.